This is Anthony J Hilder, and this is Paradigm Shift TV. We've been looking at England for a long time with rose-colored glasses, believing that the island is free, and they talk about sovereignty over there, and they talk about independence. And you're neither sovereign nor are you independent, and there's only one person who can say that with complete and total authority, and that would be somebody who was born there, born in the UK. She travels putting posters on the walls and doing interviews and sometimes telling the naked truth, the truth that you don't really want to hear. Now, you don't really want to hear everything about what's happening, because if you do, that's going to cause you to be disturbed, and we want you to be disturbed about what's wrong that's going on. If you don't, who will? So, travel with us into the paradigm shift. You have been a Joan of Arc figure, but yet you've been behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about England. Tell me, is England free? Is England sovereign? Have you ever been free?
We've never been free, no. It's kind of interesting at the moment because we've got a big situation where Scotland is going for its independence. It's very interesting because in actual fact England needs to be independent from Scotland. I just got this observation following a chain of thought really, so follow it with me and see where we go. Our Parliament is full of Scottish members of Parliament. They're in there, they're making rules, they're debating. The few laws that we still have that aren't within the EU, they're happily passing for the English, and when they go back to Scotland, they sit in their own parliament up there and pass different laws for their people up there. And believe me, it's a lot more comfortable up there for the elderly. For instance, where our elderly in England lose their houses when they go into care, in Scotland apparently they're free. I believe prescription charges are free up there too. Just little things like that, you know. Think back on the prime ministers we've had recently. How many Scottish names are there? How many Scottish names are there around them? Even Cameron is Scottish. So, yes, we need to be independent from the Scots. Thank you.
Has England ever had a British king and a British queen? Is the royalty English?
Well, I started wondering about this. I followed the work of Albert Burgess, who's really good on the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights and the history of that going through the ages. And it did occur to me that, no, I don't believe we've ever had an English king or queen. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I'm no expert on this, but I can't make head nor tail of the line of ascent, looking at the family tree, whatever, where there's any English people there. The Tudors, I thought maybe, but I believe they're Welsh, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I can see, maybe King Arthur. But if we're going from the time when we were actually overruled by a king and not just the little kingdoms throughout the land, I don't believe we've had Normans.
Wait, King Arthur, wasn't King Arthur Cornwallian?
I believe he was, but yeah.
Isn't
the Cornish will be fighting with me on this one.
Okay, but isn't Cornwall and
Cornwall would love to be independent.
Section of England.
Yeah, it would love to be independent. Yes, it would indeed.
And the same thing about Wales.
But there's still a question as to whether he was from Cornwall, you see, because the Welsh also say that King Arthur was theirs. So even that question isn't, well, it's very debatable. But yeah, meanwhile, I mean, the kings we've had Norman, which are the Vikings, were the original Normans, were they not? The Normans, we've had Vikings, we've had Danish, we've had Dutch, we've had 3 German, haven't we? And the German influence of Queen Victoria. We almost had Spanish at one time, I believe. But as far as I can tell, I don't think we've ever been ruled by an English king or queen, which makes the English have always been subservient. It's this question of freedom. Being over here in America, of course, you hear so much about the freedom aspect of being an American, land of the free and all this stuff. And being on the West Coast, right at the end of the Oregon Trail, where only a few generations ago the settlers arrived and picked a piece of land and just made a home on it, just like that. No planning permission, no authorities, no signing away, no money, just have a piece of land, you know.
No permits?
No permits. How free is that, you know?
No badges?
Nothing.
The treasure of the Sierra Madre, when our star player Bogart said to the bandits, he says, your police is where your badges. He says, we don't need no stinking badges. We're going to rule.
Yeah.
And they did. England has always been ruled.
Always been ruled. The people of only the ordinary people. All we've had there is the lord of the manor, who owns the village and the serfs thereon. When the people went into the towns, they were virtually owned by the factories and whatever work they did, you know. There's no concept of actual freedom. I found this because being in America, I started going through the history and thinking of the Pilgrim Fathers. Now, when they arrived on the coast, just can you imagine this? You arrive on a ship, you step off onto a piece of land, and that's it. There's nothing. There's no government, there's no rules and regulations, there's no health regulations, there's nobody looking over your shoulder, no cameras. Can you imagine that? And that's that sense of freedom that those people had when they got here. You know, they could get in those wagons and go wherever they wanted and live wherever they wanted to live. How long is it since the people in not just England and Britain, but Europe have been able to do that? You know, we haven't got that concept. And that's why I think the people in the West, we're the are we the West or the East? We're the East, yeah. Well, that's why the people in Europe haven't got that sense of fighting for their freedom that you've got here. Because you know what, the people here, a lot of them are knocking the Brits and things. Oh, why do they let this happen to them, you know? They can't understand it. They can't understand why we let it happen. And it's because we never had it in the first place. We haven't realised what was happening to us. And it's just gradually encroached upon us as it was meant to, until suddenly you wake up one day and there you are, CCTV, looking in your bedroom window. You know, and there you are.
How about all of the cameras in London? I mean, all over. Hundreds of cameras.
Yes, yeah.
Disciplines, rules, regulations. You can do this, you can't do that.
Yeah, London's not a fun place to be anymore. It just isn't. You do have that dreadful feeling that there's somebody watching you all the time. You know that there's somebody in a little office watching your every move as you go along the road. Get a camera out and, my goodness, you're looking over your shoulder all the time. Is someone going to stop me doing this? I mean, you know, Russia or whatever. I don't think they had cameras in Russia, did they?
I was at the Lawful Rebellion meeting at the Friend's house across from Euston Station.
Yes.
Talking to the people, the free people, well, the people who think free in England, with Brian Garish and company. And
yeah.
I made the statement that England has no constitution. I mean, I got some people screaming at me.
Yes, you would too. That was
but
a big
mistake.
mistake.
Show me the Constitution. It's like in the movie Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the Constitution. Where is the Constitution defending the rights of the people of England? And I said, well, I'm going to write one. I'm going to write one.
That wouldn't make you very popular.
Probably not. Maybe
no, we had Brown and Cameron both talking about writing a constitution. That's the worst thing that could ever happen, because we know, don't we, that they're going to twist it. But they can't. They cannot change what is written in stone, which is the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights.
We're talking about the Magna Carta here. I was at Salisbury Cathedral looking at where the Magna Carta is entombed.
That's a good word for
with
it,
the
yes.
other relics and the dead.
Yes, that's
Is
interesting
the Magna Carta
observation.
dead? Is it?
That's very
Are there other
interesting.
freedoms in England? Do they still exist?
That's really interesting. You've pointed that out. But yes, why be stored in with the tombs of the dead? That's very interesting. If you go for symbolism, which the New World Order does big time, that's a very
I'm
interesting
advocating
observation.
That we
Yes.
erect or resurrect the Magna Carta and put it in the land of the living,
Hey,
rather in the land of the dead.
let's print it out and have big posters all over the place with the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights too. Why don't we do that and post these big posters up so people can see it and know what we're talking about?
What a
Because
wonderful idea.
the children are never told about it. It's not in the school curriculums. It's nothing. And as you just pointed out, it's entombed. That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. We'll do that.
My grandfather were British, so and my father was Canadian, so I guess that entitles me to write a constitution, even if I am not entitled to write a constitution.
No, we don't.
Will do it.
We don't need one. We've got a very good one, thank you very much. Like your constitution, you see. Like your constitution.
What is a constitution?
Your constitution.
Oh, our constitution.
Our constitution is the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights, from which yours is taken.
Right.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if Britain has its own,
Yes,
I'm sure
it
that
does.
Scotland will have its own.
I'm sure. Well,
I'm sure that Cornwall.
if we ever become independent of Scotland and Cornwall, they can write their own. But yes, we do have our own constitution. And it's set in stone. And everything that's been done to our country out of that constitution, out of that Bill of Rights, is illegal and null and void. And that's the only thing we need to get out of the European Union is just to stand with that.
I was there for just 2 or 3 days, and I went down to Bournemouth, and I'm fighting to save Britain from those who would surrender it to a European Union, to Hitler's dream, because the EU is Hitler's dream come true, and they wanted to sign over the sovereignty. When I say they, the authority
Exactly, yes.
of England wanted to sign over the
Yes.
sovereignty and independence to the EU. Hitler dreamed of this united Europe. This didn't come from some guy who's selling papers on the street in Bournemouth. But yet I went to the store to get a paper after we had some fish and chips in Bournemouth, and here is the front page. They've signed off the independence.
That's right. Yeah.
Independence is dead. It's over. It's gone. Kiss it goodbye. And people are walking down the street like they didn't give a damn.
Eating
or they
their fish
didn't
and
know
chips.
what the hell was happening. What in the hell is wrong with Britain? But the British have to be responsible for the sovereignty of their own nation, and they haven't been, and I'm squawking about it here on Paradigm Shift TV, because I want to see independence, sovereignty, liberty, and for God's sakes, an opportunity to get rid of those cameras that are here and there and everywhere.
This is something that's often been said. I hear that a lot here. And as I said before, you see, we haven't never had that complete sense of freedom. I mean, on the Oregon coast there, they're just 1 or 2 generations away from the people that settled there, you know.
But yet
but you've got to take
already, there are already regulations upon regulations. America is surrendering its sovereignty.
Right, yeah. Well, you're being worked on too. Don't forget that we're having mind games played on us too. We've got this Tavistock Institute. We've got this mind-bending stuff being played on us for years, for generations. We know they're coming at it with us now. You need to, look up Tavistock Institute. I mean, it's a big subject to take on right now.
Is that in Britain?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, political correctness is just the basic of it, really.
Well, we're here in San Francisco, and it's so politically correct that the men are walking naked down the damn street.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be, hey, that's A-OK. It isn't A-OK in front of children. If somebody wants to go to a nudist colony, that's one thing. But should San Francisco be a nudist colony?
Right, who voted for that?
In front of children.
Yeah. But this is a whole other subject. We get into another realm here, the sexualization of children and children's education, where they're teaching them full sex education. They want to do it at 3. I mean, this too is all coming from the mind-bending Tavistock Institute and similar. Look to common purpose, look to, I won't say NLP training within the police and various government agencies, because NLP has been used for very good healing methods.
Ferne, isn't common purpose a common crime?
It certainly is, yes, yeah. And Americans, you have to know, that, look up common purpose, Brian Gerrish, Google it. That'll tell you the whole story. It actually came from America, and I don't think over here you've got the remotest idea of what's going on with common purpose. It's presumably a charity in the UK. A lady called Julia Middleton brought it across to England, and she runs the common purpose as a leadership organisation. On their website, they say that they are training leaders for the post-democratic era and to lead beyond authority.
Wait a minute, post-democratic, in other words, democracy, or a constitutional republic in the case of the United States, is finished.
Yes.
So we're talking about
Yeah.
a post-democratic, i.e. fascist society.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what the EU is? The EU is Hitler's dream come true.
That's becoming more and more obvious now. Even in the press, we're getting members of parliament saying this now. People in really high places. And I'll get Anthony to say this, but we had one of our UKIP members in the European Parliament who stood up, and he actually shouted out, you say it, Anthony, Ein Reich.
Ein Reich, ein Volk, ein Führer.
Exactly.
One world, one race, one ruler. That's but Rodney Atkinson and Brian Gerrish and that fella who is a leader in the European Union.
Nigel
Not that he
Farage.
likes it, but Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
I take my hat off to him.
I think it was Godfrey Bloom that said that. And he caused a complete furore in the government, in the parliament there, and he was more or less sent out of the room as a punishment. But yeah, it caused a real furore, and but you see, there it is. I mean, in the huge parliament of the European Union, somebody dared to stand up and say that, and it's becoming more and more obvious now. I mean, this is really a German-French-led operation, and who's the new president? Just been elected, they say, elected not by the people.
A German socialist.
Yes.
Well, there was another
Yes.
German socialist a few years back. He had a mustache.
Yes.
He had an armband.
Yeah.
Are we not seeing the Nazization of the British nation?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, we
I didn't
are.
hear you.
Oh, yes.
Speak louder.
Yes, it's coming. Definitely.
No, it's here. We need to be free. We need to be sovereign.
Yes, yeah.
Ferne, Paradigm Shift TV, which is backed by Dr. Hopstead,
Yeah.
is trying to make an invasion of thoughts because the nation has been invaded. The nation has been raped. When I walked across the street from the fish and chips place and I bought the papers that said the country was gone, it's finished, it's over. The country that we used to call Great Britain. New referendum says stories, Britain, the end. the final footnote of a once great nation. Can it rise again? When I went to school, it was said that the sun never set on the British Empire. Now, it never rises. And freedom verboten. And I'm thinking, my God, this has happened. Oh, I must go down to Salisbury and see where the Constitution of Britain, the Magna Carta, is buried. Why would they bury it? And I thought, well, maybe it's because the fella who initiated the move to surrender the sovereignty of Great Britain to a world government, to a new world order, was also entombed there.
Exactly.
Just yards away from the Magna Carta.
And his actual home is just across the road to the church.
I know, and I've been over there. It's
Yeah.
close to the young boys
Yeah.
who go to the school there. And I hear that the former Prime Minister,
Ted Heath.
Ted
He's the one that
Heath.
originally signed us away.
He's buried there
The big
in
one, yeah.
Salisbury,
Yes.
in the same area, very close to where the Magna Carta is buried.
Indeed, yes, he is.
The one who fought for the surrender of England. This is the home of Sir Edward Heath. He's the man that told the rest of Britain that the European was only a trading group. The trading group became the EU. And as of today, what Edward Heath started, the European Union finished. Britain, the end. This rotten, filthy, fat bastard who used to bum the boys. Oh, and right around this particular area, there was a lot of boys to bum. Sold out this country, lock, stock, and barrel. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Oh, the headline? Up yours. That's what he gave to Britain. He took our country, our honor, our future, our children. He took it all.
He's the one that instigated the common market, that everybody thought that they were going to go into a common market. He's the one that lied and lied and lied again and got us to sign up for the yes vote. There's some controversy now about whether they did win the yes vote, but I don't, you'd need to look that up.
Now, of course, all of the British people did sign off the sovereignty. I mean, there was a referendum. They were given an opportunity by Cameron and company to just sign away. I'd say, yeah, I'm willing to sign away my freedom, my sovereignty, my rights, my future, the life and dignity of my children. At the Lisbon Treaty, everybody was guaranteed to have a right to sign it all
That's
away,
right.
right?
Well, they were guaranteed a referendum.
A referendum. Did they have the referendum?
No. 3 promises we've had.
They all lied.
They forget that Blair mentioned it at one time. Yes, they all lied.
To?
Yes, to get voted. We actually challenged, Gordon Brown's. They challenged Gordon Brown in the courts about that when he promised and then he didn't come through with it. But the courts said, well, it's only a promise. It's not legally binding.
It's only a promise.
So there you have it. Your MPs, whoever, when they make these grand speeches before an election, they don't have to keep to one word of that. Not one.
It's only a promise.
It's only a promise, yeah.
Like pie crusts, they can be broken. They should be broken.
Yeah, exactly.
To eat the pie, you've got to break the crust.
Yeah. So,
now we have a man coming into England saying, let's change it. Let's bring freedom in. It was never in existence, the type of freedom that we once had here in the United States. It didn't exist.
we didn't have it, not as long as hundreds and hundreds of years back.
That's
to
why we
find
came
freedom.
into the our founding forefathers came into this country to get rid of the suppression.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to put in a neo-Nazism. Well, NATO is the new Nazism. NATO is the new Nazism. War was declared upon Libya, was it? Or maybe, no, I guess no war declared. They just came over and bombed the hell out of the people, killing 30,000 people. Well, war has been declared upon Islam. We know that.
Yeah.
I was talking about that several years ago.
Oh,
So
they're
the
determined.
war against Islam.
Yeah.
And the British government, who abides by the laws of the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, are carrying the country along and sending. Do they actually send British troops over to fight and die in these wars, like in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Yes.
Was there? Did Afghanistan declare war against Britain?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of, right? There was no war declared. Yet British men and women are asked to fight and die.
Right, exactly.
In Iraq, was there a war declared against Iraq? They just waged war against Iraq.
They just waged, yeah.
1.5 million so Iraqis killed.
Yeah.
Was Iraq involved
Tony
in
Blair did.
the 9/11 hit? No.
No.
No Iraqis.
No Iran.
No Afghans.
Wasn't it Saudi Arabia? Friends of the Blairs?
Well, no, that was supposed to be, but they weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Arabs supposedly involved in the attack, but yet no proof, no trial. Was there a trial?
No.
Was there a trial in Britain?
Absolutely
Was there
not.
a trial in the United States?
Absolutely not.
There was no war declared by the United States against Iraq. In fact, the president is required to do that if they're going to declare war. He ignored that. Ignored the Constitution of the United States. Ignored any trial. No evidence. No trial. Oh, the 9/11 Commission. The Commission report. The first suggestion was, when there was some complaints, Henry Kissinger. Henry bore Kissinger. A man who said military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns. And they have been used as pawns. And England has been used to bring about a new world order. To accomplish what Adolf Hitler once inspired to do. The EU, Hitler's dream come true. It's all coming to pass. But, of course, the EU is really A-okay. Everything has changed. It's bringing about freedom for everybody in Europe. And the new chancellor, the new head of the EU is another German. Oh, he doesn't have a mustache. But yes, the new head of the EU is from Germany. Minus the mustache. I'm concerned that we are witnessing the new Nazism. With the permission and support of the British people. With the exception of one, Nigel Farage, who's got the guts and the nuts to stand up and speak out.
He's
God,
got a.
is our country going? Is it being surrendered? It brings, I'm just the grandson of two Brits.
Yeah,
The
we're in
mommy
trouble.
and daddy of my father. But I
Yeah,
felt with your husband, who's an American, that we had to go there and speak up and stand out, and we started a website, Our England. It's my England. It's your England. It's our England. Our englanduk.com. And we have done that. In fact, we put the combination of hits that the site had with common crime, because we talked about common purpose, and we needed to show that it was a common crime. And we've done that, for God's sakes. We took a look at the numbers outdistancing UKIP, Campaign for an Independent Britain. I went down to Salisbury with a friend of mine named Alan, his wife Marilyn, to see the Magna Carta, to see where it was entombed, just a few yards from where Edward Heath was buried. It's not far from where he buggered the boys. And I thought, my God, what a crime that's been committed upon all of the people of Britain.
What are we looking at here? Is this the home of Sir Edward Heath, the fat, greasy who sold England out to the European Union?
It certainly is.
I didn't quite hear you.
It certainly is Sir Edward Heath's house.
What did he do to England?
He sold us out to the European Union. He signed a treaty and he sold us out.
I was going to do a television show. My cameraman, Matthew, young man from Wales, said, "Oh, don't say what you're going to say. Don't say it." This is on another network on the edge and doing a fine job. He's going to see Theo Chalmers. What I was going to say was that, and did, that Sir Edward Heath should be exhumed, his body exhumed, ground up and flushed into the sewer system of London. He said, "Oh, no, you can't say that. No, the people won't accept that. You don't do that." As soon as I got in there and sat down, I looked at Theo, and he was a little bit cautious about what the American was going to say. And I said that Sir Edward Heath must be exhumed, where he's entombed in Salisbury. Brought to London, ground up, and flushed into the sewer system with the other filth.
This is Salisbury Cathedral. Father, what is your name?
My name is Peter, and I've been here for 32 years. Not as long as the cathedral, of course.
Well, I'm standing on the grave of Sir Edward Heath. He's the man who wrote the initial document which led to the entree into the European Union, and as we see in the newspaper today, the end of Britain as we once knew it, and the emergence of a new world order.
Yes, he was buried here, as it says, and recorded in 2005.
Let me get a newspaper here. No referendum says Tories, Britain, the end. The Lisbon Treaty now ends what we now know as the once Great Britain. And we're standing on the...
Just by coincidence, that's right.
On the tomb of the man who made it all possible. Told us that nothing like this would ever happen, yet it has. And it's shocking to me, and it's shocking to me that he would be buried in this cathedral.
Yes,
considering this is a man who brought about the end of England, according to the newspaper.
He had a house just outside in the cathedral grounds. Yeah.
Yes, we were over there today. What do you feel about this, Father? The end of Great Britain, the end of sovereignty as we now know it, because the Magna Carta is
in the cathedral here.
In the cathedral here, is it not?
It is.
How long has it been here?
Well, it was brought here by the Earl of Salisbury in 1226. It's been here ever since.
In 1226,
Yeah.
the Magna Carta. Isn't that
It
what
was-
led to the freedom
That's right.
of all England?
Yes, and it was actually made in 1215, but the cathedral wasn't ready for occupation, and so William Longspay is the first man to be buried in the cathedral, who brought the Magna Carta here in
Well,
1226.
I find it sort of incongruous that the Magna Carta would be over here that brought freedom to England, and the man who signed the treaty which led to the treaty which ended freedom for all of England being side by side.
It's just so it's not far distant between the two, are they?
No. I mean, it's outrageous.
8 centuries between.
8 centuries between.
Yeah.
The man who killed the Magna Carta and the Magna Carta.
That's right.
It's extraordinary. Yes. Thank you so much.
It is essential that people who understand the true British people have a chance to speak up. And we are bringing that opportunity through Paradigm Shift.
Weeping for my country. Excuse me, blowing my nose. I would say that was something to do with chemtrails.
No, Fern, that's not the problem.
What is it?
You know the problem. We know the problem. We're seeing the flushing of the toxic toilets on England from above with the permission. With the permission of those criminals in Parliament.
Yes.
Who must be put on trial and imprisoned for crimes against the nation.
Yeah.
You're crying for England. You're crying for the mothers and sisters and daughters and sons who've been sent to war to die. For a new world order, for the new Nazism. That's what you've been crying about. Yeah, it brings tears to my eyes. I love my England. OurEnglandUK.com. God help us if we don't take a stand when we've got an opportunity. That's what Paradigm Shift is all about. It's shifting the paradigm. We want you, and you back there to be involved. We want you to be part of this. It's part of a rebirth. A birth from Mother England, who has never borne a free child. You're taxed and retaxed. The monies go to the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers here in the United States and those who want to bring about this New World Order. Have you any idea what a Luciferian New World Order could be or will be if you don't do anything? God, above, help us to understand. Take a look at this lady. She is England. You are England.
I'm an Essex girl. They know what that means. And I'm old enough to remember how it should be before it changed so drastically. Children today don't know how it should be. All they can see is what they see around them. You know, they program children within 2-3 generations. The whole viewpoint is changed. And the history is rewritten. They've got nothing to fall back on. They think that everything's fine because this is how it is. Well, it isn't. It's not how it's meant to be. I mean, there were no such things as perfect times in the past, but there were better times and freer times. I enjoy watching Heartbeat, for instance, with the friendly Bobby in the village. You know, it's like some sort of a fantastic tale now, isn't it? When we see our policemen lined up with their tasers and their helmets and whatever, you know. But truly, things were actually like that at that time. You know, it can be again. It will be again.
A long way from the days when the Keystone Cops were on their way next to that tree in England where I stayed. I don't know what they call it. The tree is in the middle of the road. I had family were in the entertainment industry. My grandmother was a silent movie star of sorts, I'm told, at least, and my stepmother is Dorothy Granger, or was. See, people don't really die. The spirit lives on. There's a spirit.
Yeah.
There's a spirit within England that exists that just needs to be reborn.
Yeah.
We have to have a constitution that is abided by, that where people can be born and live free. They can own their own homes. They can drive down their own roads.
Yeah.
The crime that has been committed against England.
Little point there, people owning their own homes, driving down their own streets, whatever. You need to look up Agenda 21. It's from the Rio Summit, 1992, Sustainable Development, and it's where the heads of the leaders of the world got together under the auspices of people like Maurice Strong, Al Gore, and Gorbachev was into that. And they decided amongst themselves how they were going to run the world so that it's sustainable for all the people on it. And there's a long, long list of things that they decided were going to have to go in order for the world to sustain. And they've been working on this since then, for many, many years. And in amongst this list are things like private property must go, single-family dwellings must go. Now, look at the headlines in your newspaper. What are they doing to the elderly people now? You've got to leave your family home because we need the houses desperately for somebody else. And who are these other people? Excuse me, but the indigenous population is going down. Our birth rate is going down. So who are the houses for, you know?
This is the birthplace of the United Nations. This is where the document to bring about a new world order was first signed by Alger Hiss, put together by Alger Hiss and members of the Council on Foreign Relations, which came from the Royal Institute of International Affairs. The organization here to surrender the United States and the world came from England. And we got to go back to the individuals who wanted to reduce the population of the planet. They're trying to kill the planet.
You must all know half a dozen people at least who are no use in this world, who are more trouble than they are worth. Just put them there and say, sir or madam, now will you be kind enough to justify your existence? If you can't justify your existence, if you're not pulling your weight in the social vote, if you're not producing as much as you consume, or perhaps a little more, then clearly we cannot use the big organization of our society for the purpose of keeping you alive.
They're trying to reduce the population by 95%. The sustainable living that Ferne is talking about was originated in England. There was a fellow who was so smart and smug, an assholean. You know who he is? George Bernard Shaw. Fabian socialist. Oh, they have a mascot. There's the mascot. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You can go to the window pane and you can see the wolf in sheep's clothing. You'd have to be blind not to see it. But even if you were blind, you'd have to be dumb not to know it. It's all about you. Agenda 21 is part of that Ickley. I mean, everybody stepped in Ickley before, my God, and you've wiped your shoes and, oh my God. I've stepped in Ickley, but Ickley is here. You don't have to understand what the name is, but basically it's international criminal law, eliminating freedom, eliminating independence. Ferne talks about this Earth Summit. Back there they said, oh, we're going to do something for the Earth. We're going to protect the Earth. We're going to take the Earth. But they use the green mask. Behind the green mask you'll find the Goreenies. Gangoreenies. Gangoreenies. That's where a person is alive, but a certain section of his body is dead. That's the gangrene. Gangorene. We've got an independence that's subverted. A constitution being destroyed. And a free world alliance in opposition to the United Nations. Right here, with Ferne, with Bill, with Brian, Garish, and those of us around the world who are saying, we're not going to let this become the legend of Lucifer, and they're going to go back in the Luciferian books and say, this is how we killed the world, this is how we destroyed and raped and robbed and pillaged. And we're so proud at meetings like the Bohemian Grove to sacrifice children, to give it all up for Satan. We have the Bilderberg West meeting over here. Russia Today came out and filmed it.
Who are on this estate are committing crimes against this country and all countries of the world.
And from Backwood Deals, from Bohemian Grove, we'll bring you more. We'll tell you what dark secrets protesters have found out about this historic men's club. The news starts now. Now, Bohemian Grove is something that we've talked about a lot over the last few days. What's believed to have come from inside the gathering over the years we've talked about. But what about the protesters outside? They're a small group, at least this year, but their charges are hefty. They blame the government for everything from crime to conspiracy, and a group of them were there over the weekend to protest actions of the government and some of America's largest corporations. Protesters stood outside the gates of Bohemian Grove, where for more than 100 years, if you have been watching our coverage, some of the most powerful men in the world have gathered for an all-men's, exclusive, highly secret retreat. So, were these protesters' complaints heard by anyone aside from the trees that surround Bohemian Grove? Well, RT's Christine Frizzau was there. She was outside the secret retreat, too. So she found out. Here is what she found.
Smart meters, cell phone towers, any kind of radiation.
The toxification of everybody and everything.
Weather modification program.
We're having an event here to protest Bohemian Grove.
Those who stood guard at the gates of Bohemian Grove had high hopes that those attending the all-men's retreat would pay attention to their concerns.
I'm here at the Bohemian Grove event to protest against militarism and against imperialism. What's happening right behind me at this place and others like it, decisions are being made that affect all of us, yet the people in there answer to none of us.
Certainly they came to the right place as far as trying to reach the rich and powerful. The more than 100-year-old annual conference has been attended by everyone from Dick Cheney, Newt Gingrich, Henry Kissinger, and Thomas Keane, the man who 2 years after this photo was taken would head up the 9/11 Commission.
Ferne and Bill have been out there alone out in the forest, of the Grove. 1,200 acres next to the Russian River. Alone, standing up and speaking out. My God, how proud I am of them. And how proud I am of this lady. Ferne, you have done so much for so many. It's now time that the people of the free world, and certainly the Free World Alliance and Paradigm Shift TV, know your name.
Oh dear, I'm just one of many. I really am just a small one of many. There's groups all over the country who are doing fantastic things trying to get this right. They really are. I'm just one voice amongst many. Can I just make one little point here? It's one of my favourite things I try to get out. It was pointed out by Albert Burgess. And he said, why do we keep saying that we're voting politicians into power? Why do we say that? Every time we say that, we're confirming to them that we're giving them power. No, we didn't vote them in for power. We voted them in to govern us, to represent us in government. We didn't give them power over us, did we? They've taken it. And that little, it's called a thought meme, if you like. Look it up. But it's
the power is
every
in the people. Is it not?
We're giving them the power. Every time we say that, every time it's written in the newspaper, so-and-so has come into power, we're emphasising the fact that they have the power, and people stop questioning it. We should be questioning these things, the phrases that's used, the words that are used, you know? And this is what we're doing. They're not put into power. We didn't vote anybody into power. We voted them in to govern us and represent our people. End of story. And we need to be saying that now and getting this power thing out of our heads, you know.
In every pub in England where people lift a pint, it is time to do so in praise of the new England, the free England.
I like that.
It's time for a free England.
It is indeed, yes.
Independence. Freedom is choice. Choice is freedom. Without choice, there is no freedom. Without freedom, there is no chance. We must prepare to win or prepare to die. I don't really want her to be like Joan of Arc. Joan was burnt to death for leading the people out of the darkness into the light. There has to be some people who die. Those are the people who want to reduce the population of the planet. Don't think for 1 second that I'm against some people dying. Those who advocate that we reduce the population of the planet by 95%, let them be the first to die. Let them be the first. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Henry Kissingers, the Ted the Terrible Turners who say, yes, we must do this. The George Bernard Shaws. Thank God he's into his grave. But don't let the works that he did live beyond him. Unlike Shakespeare, who said that the good men do are often tired of their bones, and that the evil that men do live after them. It's time for those words to change. The good that men and women do must live after them.
in the spirit of the Ferne and her husband, Bill Coons, and you, and Brian Garish, and all of you must live on. This is Anthony J. Hilder. This is Paradigm Shift TV. We welcome you aboard in an opportunity to spread the message. Our EnglandUK.com, commoncrime.net, aircrap, CRAP.org, Free World Alliance, Free World Filmworks. We shall arrive on your island and work to set you free. God bless, and as they say, south of the border here, via.